Good morning, DE Psych. Let's go ahead and get started with today's lesson and lecture. This is our second to the last. It's crazy to think about. Just a reminder, this week you can drop off your letters to the school anytime, Monday through Friday, 9 to 2. Due to the checkout process that they're doing, the school and that bin will be out in the front of the school for you. So the school will be open, although you cannot go inside the building unless you're checking out. So, and then a last reminder about the final. Majority of you have signed up for a movie and you're ready to go. So get those done and submitted. There's no penalty for early submissions. Actually, it helps me to get your grades in. And keep an eye out for your reader's notebooks. Grades will be in early this week, Monday, Tuesday-ish, probably Tuesday, Wednesday-ish this week. All right. So we continue with social psych. We're going to get through 2 more lessons of social psych. On Wednesday, I will close kind of the lessons type of thing and just let you guys, after Wednesday's little lesson, let you guys just work on your final. If you haven't received the participation for this week, it is our virtual yearbook. I hope that you guys enjoy it. You can write some things in there and get maybe some signatures from people that you would not see otherwise to get those signatures. I know that likely you guys will be able to pass off your actual yearbooks to friends that you're close to, but I know that there's many people that you're close to in class and you may not see them throughout the summer with your yearbook in hand. So that was the kind of intention of the virtual yearbook. And I would just suggest that maybe either you keep a copy of that virtual yearbook or you print off color copies of your pages in particular and put them into your yearbook. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and start with conformity. We are talking about conformity today. I think this is a really important subject for us to cover within social psychology. So out of the subjects I could cover in this unit, it's one that I do like to give a lecture on. Let's first talk about the strengthening of conformity, what psychologists have found that increases the rate of conformity. So these are all conditions that strengthen conformity. Conformity often happens because a person does not feel as if they belong. If we go back to Maslow, people will conform just to fulfill that segment of the hierarchy of belonging. So if one is made to feel incompetent and insecure, people will conform to what the norms are so that they don't stand out. We would rather, as humans, and you can see this especially in young kids, we would rather as humans go along with the group than be the odd man out. And whether that's an evolutionary survival type of thing, I don't know. We don't have that answer. But we do know that is the tendency, especially for our youth who haven't been taught otherwise. For conformity to be really strong, you need to have at least 3 people in a group. When you put people together in a group of like 2, if you and I are talking, I'm going to feel more apt to be able to say my opinion without having any hesitation. Whereas if we're in a group and 2 of your friends agree on something and you don't agree, that's when conformity starts to kind of rev up, that you may not feel as comfortable to disagree with your 2 friends and thus may conform. So the larger the group that agrees on one side of a story and you disagree, the more apt you are to not say anything. Okay, the more apt you are to conform to what they're doing or what they're saying or what they believe. If the group is unanimous, of course, that creates a really high correlation for conformity. It's likely that you don't want to disagree with an entire group. It takes a lot of social courage to stand up if you have a huge group that all agrees on one thing. If one admires the group's status and attractiveness, if that group has created for themselves a niche in like maybe the way that they're respected, then more people are going to conform to what that group is doing. I love Mean Girls for this. You could talk huge about conformity on the movie Mean Girls. I didn't choose it for this for this final because I didn't know if we'd get this far in psychology, so I did not put it on the list. But Mean Girls would be a perfect example of all of these conditions that strengthen conformity. One has made no prior commitments. If you have no prior commitment, no opinion, no established norm that you espouse, you're going to be more apt to conform to the group. If you can observe behavior, others in the group observe one's behavior. If you can observe the behavior, not just listen to the behavior, that also helps. We're very visual humans. And so if we see how somebody dresses, if we see how somebody acts, and any of these other conditions are present, we may conform to those types of behaviors. The particular culture strongly encourages respect for social standards. If you have a culture within the group that earns respect and respects the social standards, then there's more conformity in that sense. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say an organization like National Honor Society, okay? If that is a respected organization, it respects social standards that are also respected, like our community respects the fact that kids get good grades, and NHS reinforces that, then there's going to be more conformity to that. And then, of course, obedience, just flat out obedience to authority. Okay. These are all conditions that strengthen conformity to happen. And conformity, in a way, can be good as long as it's balanced. I think that goes along with anything in life. When you have something at one extreme and then something at another extremes don't work well. But if you find that balance, conformity can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. But on one end, if it's too much, then it can be a bad thing. On the other end, if it's too little, it could be a bad thing. I mean, anarchy, not a good thing. But yet at the same time, Nazism, not a good thing. Okay. So when you have this mental conformity of a group, of a culture, of a people, this is known as groupthink. So you may hear this term every once in a while that was a lot of groupthink. Groupthinking meaning that there were people that we know were in that group that were simply conforming to the group and the group idea and failed to speak up. We know today, after we look at the history of Nazi Germany, that there were plenty of people, plenty of Germans that did not agree with the Nazi ideology. But they were afraid to speak up because they believed that there was a unanimous decision in those Nazi policies. So you have to be really careful. Again, at its extreme, it can be very bad. So then we go back to a term that we had during our thinking unit, and that's belief perseverance. And this is the belief in your opinion, idea, or thought despite contradicting evidence. Okay, we've talked about that. That despite all of the evidence, you're still holding on really tight to that belief. And if you have a group that has conformed to a belief, a lot of times they will have belief perseverance, some of those obstacles that we talked about before, or confirmation bias. I'm going to let you guys think about this one. I'm not going to explain it. I think that since you guys know, first of all, you know the meme, but since you know these vocabulary terms, I want you to think about how a conformist would look at both of those things. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on. Our last term for today is display rules. So these are culturally biased displays of emotion or control of emotion. The reason I bring up this particular vocabulary term, especially for my AP testers that will be taking the test tomorrow. Let's see if I get this all right. Jocelyn, Blair, Ian Donegan, and Bianca, and Jordan O'Neill. Good luck. tomorrow, but this was a vocabulary term that was on a test in the past AP tests, so I put it in here now. Display rules, culturally biased displays of emotion or control of emotion. So what we do as humans, and we didn't talk a lot about the emotion unit, but what we have as humans is we have universal emotions. The emotion of happiness is universal throughout all cultures. The emotion of anger is universal throughout all cultures. The emotion of disgust, that smells, it's gross, it's universal throughout all cultures. Okay, these 7 emotions are universal, but the display of the rules vary greatly depending on the culture. Every culture has these emotions, but certain cultural norms, mores, make it maybe only permissible if you display it a certain way. Okay, so let me give you an example. Here in the United States, we do not hold back on our display rules of happiness. We are okay with people at a soccer game, a football game, a volleyball game, just being, wow, screaming at the top of their lungs. Whereas in some cultures, it's seen as not okay to have that pure, unadulterated display of emotion. And so in some cultures, you get things like the golf clap. Okay. Here in the United States, we can laugh however loud we want. I mean, obviously, if somebody is really ridiculous, we'll look at them and be like, whoa. And then we possibly just start laughing at them. In some cultures, to laugh like that, not okay. The display rule is okay, something like that. So display rules are conformity of behavior due to what is acceptable to display in terms of basic emotions of sadness, happiness, disgust, anger. I don't remember all the 7. I'd have to do my studying, so you might want to look that up. But and you can email me and be like, Ms. Rivera, these are the 7 emotions, and I know I have it somewhere. But those are display rules that certain cultures will conform to display rules of how you show those emotions. Okay, so guys, that is it for today. I'm going to jump out here and show you what the small dice assignment is. It's a very famous, a famous experiment that was done, and I would love for you guys to do this simply because I think if you go on, take any other psychology, you will hear about the ASH experiment. So in our week 10, if you jump into Monday's work, you will see here a reading for the ASH experiment and then some questions. Okay, the reading literally is about 3-4 pages, and the questions, there's only about 5. All right. Once again, playing the songs that remind me of the closing, and I'm really starting to feel good about how we're going to close for our seniors. I think May 27th will be amazing. I encourage my seniors on May 27th, when you go to pick up your tassels and your awards, and I encourage you, decorate your cars, be excited, create signs to say bye to teachers. Wow, I'm doing this. But I think it will be a really cool day. And I don't think you guys will be upset with the memory that you leave. I don't feel like you'll be denied. I think it'll be unique. So, yeah, embrace it, guys. We're nearly there. And my seniors,